Hello everybody, welcome on in here to our user group webinar where we will be talking about adding individuals into the membership module in version 20 of Church Windows. My name is Jim and I'm coming to you live on an overcast day here in Columbus, Ohio. So glad you guys could join us here today. Before we get started, a quick word about your GoToWebinar control panel. There is going to be a little red arrow button in the upper left-hand corner that you can use to either minimize or maximize that GoToWebinar control panel, and it gives you access to the functions of that screen, including the questions section. I will be covering a rather limited amount of material here over the next 20 minutes or so regarding specifically adding individuals into the membership module in version 20. When the presentation is over, I will leave the room open for a little while for any questions that have kind of built up. Please keep them to the topic at hand, adding folks in the membership module. The other thing I do want to point out is that version 20 isn't out yet. It's not available yet, so what I'm working with today is not the final version. So this is not the final version of Church Windows 20.17. I did go through the material earlier today. There weren't any error messages or any bugs that I ran across, but it is possible we'll hit a speed bump or a hiccup in the program. Like I said, we're not done with it yet. We do anticipate having version 20 being available for everybody before the end of this year. Folks who are on our update and support program with Church Windows will have will be contacted when it's available. You'll be able to download and install that version. It's a big deal to us. We've been kind of in a rather long process of rewriting Church Windows module by module over the last several years, and this is the version where we're finally done with membership. So you'll be looking at a rewritten version of membership in version 20. We're just now getting started, getting our training materials available for that now. Speaking of which, I am going to be working with the most recent version of our regional training workbooks. Membership 101 is the workbook I'll be working with, going from pages 22 through pages 30 in that Membership 101 book. Available now. You can give us a call into our support line, which is at 800-533-5227 if you have any questions about that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and open up membership and take a look around a little bit. Opening membership is done by clicking on that link there. Here's our new opening screen for the membership module. Opening up the screen where you can look at all your folks is done by clicking on this big people button right here in the lower left hand corner, which will take you to this window here in a moment. Okay, so here's our new membership members and visitors screen here. We are still looking at a household side and individual side of the screen. Boom, right through there. You got your household information over here. You got your individual information over here. That's what we'll be working with in version 20 here. What we will specifically be talking about today is adding an individual into the system. So we'll talk about the process of adding somebody into the system, and we will be discussing what many of the fields here in membership are there to keep track of. We're putting this information here into the membership module with the idea that we'll be able to generate reports based upon the information that you're tracking here in the system. So we're going to talk about what the fields mean, and hopefully that will be able to get you some nice reports out of the membership module. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into here, let me find the family we're going to be working with. Locating individuals is done right up here at the top. There's your person lookup. That is a search box listed next to there that will allow you to find a particular individual or a family. looking for the Bernard family. So I'm going to go ahead and select Evan here, and it takes us to the Bernard family right here. What you're looking at when you're on this screen over here, in the household record kind of half of the window, which is this half over, again over here, you'll be seeing a listing of all of the individuals in the family listed underneath here. You'll see their name listed in the name column. You'll have the age of that individual as calculated based on the birth date field here in membership. It'll take their birth date, compare it to the system date of your computer, and it can display their age based on that calculation. And then you'll also see a column for the family relation field, so how they're coded in comparison to the family. You see here we've got this kind of sorted by age in this particular household. But if you did want to change the order in which these people appeared in the family, it's very easy to do so. You'll actually see a little reminder text about this down here at the bottom. Right-click to rearrange the members of the family. So like, for example, if you didn't want, you wanted Nikki's record to be the first record that you see in the family as opposed to Evan's, you can just right-click on a record. So I right-clicked on Nikki's record, I can click Move Up, and that'll move her into the position of first record in the family like that. Okay, so again, it's right-clicking, and you'll select whether you're moving a particular record up or down from there. Although we're not covering it here in our webinar this afternoon, adding a new family, if you wanted to create a new household that you would then include people in, would be done here with the Add Family button up here. That's how you'd create a brand new household. And if you did that first, then you'd be adding new individuals into that household. In this case, we're going to go ahead and add a new individual into the system here. We'll go ahead and say that Evan's, we're going to move a new person into this household. Evan's mother is moving into the house with them. They're going to take care of her in the same household, so we're going to create a new individual record here. That is done by clicking on this Add Individual button at the top of the individual record side right over here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll add individual here. When you do that, you'll notice the screen on the right side becomes kind of blank here. It does automatically bring the last name field forward based on the members of the family. And then you can go ahead and record the information for that individual here. So at the top of the screen is basically just their name. So you record their first name in the first name field here. Their title will be right here, so that's Mr., Mrs., Dr., etc. If they have a nickname, you would fill that in here, and you've also got a checkbox over here to the right if you're going to use the nickname on reports in the system. So if their name is Robert and they just go by Bob, and you want Bob to show up on all of your reports, you'd put a check mark under Use Nickname, and then that would show up that way. If they've provided you with a middle name, you can fill that in right here. Suffix would be listed in the suffix box over here on the right. So that would be Junior, the third, Esquire, PhD, etc. You know, whatever you'd need listed after the name would go in there. Okay, so that's all of that information at the top of the individual record. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a listing and talk about what some of the individual fields mean, some of the built-in individual fields here in the membership module, and kind of what they're designed to do. The Show in Scheduler checkbox right here allows you to determine whether or not somebody appears over in the scheduler module or not. Basically, that allows you to assign them duties to different events over in the scheduler. It allows you to set them up as a contact person for a particular event or a room or piece of equipment, etc. over in scheduler. So basically that is whether or not you're going to use this individual over in that module of the program. By default, it is off. If you want somebody to appear, you put a check mark in there. Second field we're going to talk about is this giver number field right here. Over in the donations module of Church Windows, it is not required to have a giver number or an envelope number on their record in order to track giving for them. But you can use them if you wish. Okay, so over to the right here, there's a couple of buttons. The number button right here, no, I want to point out, you can click in here, but you can't type. You can't simply enter a new giver number on here. You have to actually click on this little button with the number symbol next to it in order to add a new field. It's going to give me this message here that in order to do this, we have to use a field called Directory Report Order. I will talk about that in a moment. But first, I'm going to go ahead and click on my number button here. It takes you to the Manage Numbers window as you see here on the screen. In order to assign a new giver number to Sally, we would use this Add New Number button right here. If you were unaware of what the next available giver number that you want to assign to this person, you can run a list numbers report by clicking on this button right here. One of the versions of that will show you any available numbers that you have. I'm just going to go ahead and click Add New, assign a number that I think is available. Notice here you can assign a start date for that number. So it goes back to the beginning of the current donations year by default on that screen. So if I click OK here, oh, I do have that on somebody else's record. My mistake. Sorry about that. Okay. When you do that, notice it'll show you your start date for that giver number and an end date will be blank. So it continues to be on their record until such time as you choose to end it. Things that you want to review on this screen are these check boxes up here. You want to make sure that if they want to receive a donation statement that you put a check mark for Receive Statement. Also, if different members of the same family share the same giver number and they want to generate a statement, a single statement for all the members of that family, you'd want to check Gives with Family here. We're not going to do that because Sally gets her own statement at the end of the year. It's already in there. There's no need to click a Save button on here. I'll just click X and you'll have that number on her record. Okay. So we'll continue to go down the list of fields on here. Family relation is the next field right here. This is that individual's relationship to their household, is what you're assigning with this. Over to the right, you'll see a little drop-down arrow. When you click on the drop down, that allows you to select a field that you've already got set up in your system. It just so happens I have a code for parent of the adults in the household already set up in here. So I'll go ahead and assign that to her. The other button that you'll see over here, by the way, is this little pencil button with the little plus and minus symbols next to it. That allows you to create new codes if you want to create new codes for that field. Okay, so you can create a new code with a new description, use the Add button to create that new code in your system. You can also delete existing codes by clicking on the minus button over here to the right. It will simply remove that code from everybody's record in the system that already has it, and then delete that code from the system. Okay. Family relation, again, that person's relationship to your family. The next two fields on your list here kind of work together. The include on directory field right here and the directory/report order field listed right here. So the include on directory field is simply whether or not that person shows up on your directory report or not. If that's unchecked, they won't print on any of your directories that you generate out of membership. I'm going to go ahead and say Sally Canning be included on that directory. There's a little box over here that if you want their name to appear on your directory with a particular symbol after their first name. So for example, if you'd like to have all of your active members appear on your directory with an asterisk after their name, you can just add that code right here. So that'll put that symbol after their name when you print your directory. If you chose to use it, I'm not going to do it in this case. The directory report order field is the next one, and it's the directory report order field that helps you determine the way a family is going to appear when you print a directory. So the way a normal directory is going to appear, it'll say like Johnson, comma, Bob and Mary on the first line, and then you'll have the children's names listed below that. If you assign somebody with a primary code, that just means that their name is the first name that shows up on that first line in the directory. Church Windows simply needs to know whose name comes first. It does not assign any additional importance to that person in any particular way. It's just how it's going to be ordered when you print your directory. So that's primary and secondary are those first two names. If you have any number of children in the family, they will appear below that on your directory. That's what the 3 code does. Secondary and primary separately is the 4 code, generally used if the husband and the wife or the partners in the household have different last names, so that it'll generate 2 separate records on the directory alphabetized by each of their last names. And then finally, individual separately would be if somebody in the household wants their own separate entry in the directory, oftentimes used for adult children or parents that move back into the household. They want their own separate record on the directory is how that would be coded for those folks. Status code is the next field, this one right here. If the family relation field determines somebody's relationship to the family, it is the status that determines somebody's relationship to the church. So these are various codes that are defined by your organization or your church for different membership statuses. Okay. These are all defined in a similar way that family relation is. You can edit them by clicking on your edit button over here to the right. Okay. The next field is inactive. In the old version of prior versions of Church Windows, including all the current versions of Church Windows, this was called reason for termination. Now it's just inactive, whether you're going to mark somebody as inactive or not in the system. If you put a check mark here for inactive, this individual won't appear on any of your reports that you generate out of Church Windows. You won't be able to record attendance, and you won't be able to record giving for them unless you kind of specifically tell the system that you want to. It's kind of like archiving the record. If you mark somebody as inactive, there is no need to change anything else on their record because they won't appear on reports anyhow. So when you use the field inactive, all you need to do is check it, and then it will mark them inactive, and you won't be able to print reports. But in addition to that, you can select a description for why they're inactive, so death or transferred or whatever. And then the date that they went inactive can also be recorded. Okay, so that's like the old reason for termination and the old termination date fields. Okay, so then we also have our birth date fields. We only want to kind of mention this because when you record a particular date in the system, Um, when I click on that, notice the little question mark next to it. So if I hover my mouse over the question mark next to that date, it'll tell you can use question marks for unknown parts of dates. So that also is unchanged here. So like if we knew her birthday and month, but not the year, March 27th, but we're not sure what year, we can just put question marks in there to record the part of that we don't know. Because we don't know the year of her birthday, it will be unable to calculate the age over here underneath the family members section on the left. So the age will be blank for her because we don't know the year of her birth. Okay. School grade field is the last one we want to make sure we talk about. School grade is public school grade in the system. So we've got a series of these codes in here. K for kindergarten 1 through 12, and then G for high school graduate. There is a feature built into membership that allows you to automatically advance school grades for everybody in your system with a single click of your mouse button. So it'll advance all of the first graders to the second grade and etc. on up the way there. So I'm going to mark her as graduated with that. You can also record any number of other information on people's records, and it's all customizable. But these are the most important built-in fields in the system. Once you've got all of the things recorded that you need on somebody's record, whatever you can record it. But if you don't know everything yet, that's okay. But once you've got all of the information you need, you can save that record by using the Save button up here at the top of the screen. And it'll save that person into the family there. Couple other quick things we want to touch on here. You can delete records off individual records by using this Delete Individual button right up here. If they have giving on in their history, if you've ever recorded giving for that person in the system, you will be unable to delete that record. It'll give you a message about how they have giving on their record and therefore can't be deleted. That's one of the situations where you'd use the inactive button, the inactive checkbox. The other thing is scrolling kind of from record to record here in membership. There's a prior and a next button up here in the upper left hand corner of the screen right here. That allows you to kind of scroll from household to household and individual to individual by scrolling through using these. So you'll see it takes you from record to record as you use these. Oh, household to household, actually, pardon me. Then the other thing we want to make sure that we mention here, let's go back to Sally's record here. So there's Sally. Let's go back to her record. Is that there's a series of tabs that occur along the top of the screen here that you may want to review when you're recording information here. So any groups and classes that somebody is assigned to, you can go to that groups and classes tab here, and you can assign these folks to those groups and classes right here on that groups and classes tab. Appropriately enough, skills and interests can be done here on the skills and interests tab. Addresses and contacts tab right here is where you can set up alternate addresses. So let's say you have a child that lives in the household that also is a college student. So you can come to their record here and add an additional address here for their dorm room, for example. You would do that here under addresses and contacts. Any additional comments for an individual record can be recorded on here. If it doesn't kind of neatly fit into other fields that you have in the main tab here, you can record those informations under comments. You can also record photos for folks on the photo tab right here. And that is my 20 minutes. That is all of the material we have to cover here today. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're all set to get on with your day, feel free to click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. I will leave the room open for a little while as well if you have any questions about adding information for individuals here in membership version 20. I'll be glad to field those questions now. So yeah, thanks for joining me, everybody.